I'm developing a grand strategy game called Ascendant, and the UI looks like this. It's workable, but certainly not great. So I decided to update it a little. After asking people how they thought I could improve it, some suggested adding transparency. Considering modern UI design often incorporates it, I decided to implement transparent, technically translucent UI along with a general upgrade. As you can see, the old UI always took up the entire screen and was mostly empty, wasting a lot of space. Worse, it looked static, outdated, and far too rigid. The easiest thing I did was to make parts of the UI transparent and then improved it. However, I also noticed a lot of modern games blur the area underneath their widgets to make them easier to read. So I applied a blur behind each of the elements. Using Unreal Engine's UMG system, this is all easy. Really, only a few button clicks per element. After that, the UI looked like this. A lot better than before. However, there were still a few things I didn't like. For instance, there are some elements that display very little information, though still take up the entire screen when opened. To solve this, I decided to make them into small, draggable widgets. I followed a quick tutorial on how to make draggable widgets, and this was the result, which I think is far better than before. It also allows for the widget to be opened during normal gameplay, which allows stats to be found easily. I also realised it was often difficult to see a lot of other stats at a glance, where the only way to find such information would be to go into a tab and potentially add up all the data manually. This certainly wasn't user-friendly and made a simple task such as finding your tribe's happiness fairly difficult. So I solved this by adding a top UI element to the heads-up display, also known as the HUD. This contained critical information such as total population and remaining food supply. Another vital part of the UI are the floating widgets that can be found above tribes and settlements. Even before I decided to do this overhaul, they looked good. However, I decided to improve them further. Both of these floating elements are fairly similar. They display a flag, a name, the entity's opinion, and stance on you indicated by two coloured rectangles. The translucent dark background allows for players, especially those with poor vision, to more easily read the widget. For the settlement, when hovered over by the player, it shows some internal information. I improved this by adding little icons that show the building's presence, and if one of the buildings is being built, the icon will be greyed out. So far, I've only finished a few of the icons, but I think they are all fairly unique and can be easily discerned, giving important information about the settlements. For both, the flag is tinted to make telling different tribes and settlements apart easier. Overall, I think these changes make the game appear and play far nicer, though I'd love to hear what all of you think. You can voice these opinions in the Discord, the newly created subreddit, and of course there is a Twitter page, all of which can be found in the description. Oh, and 97% of my viewers are not subscribed, so please subscribe because I definitely need them, and I'll give you free videos if you do. It's a great deal. Not that there's a consistent schedule to these devlogs.